Hi, and welcome to another episode of Starship Gaming. Before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell if you want notifications of when we make more awesome videos. Now, let's jump right into today's topic. Today, we are going to review Saints Row for the Xbox 360. Saints Row, or I should say the very first Saints Row, released in 2006 by THQ, is one of those games that's been largely forgotten about, as well as its sequel. It was actually its later sequels that found a huge success, and not because of them being Grand Theft Auto clones. Yes, they are direct Grand Theft Auto clones, but Saints Row the Third was the one that really shined in the series because of its comedy and its satire compared to the first two games in the series, which were fairly serious in a way. And of course you had Saints Row 4, which just completely threw logic out the window and became completely ridiculous. But the very first Saints Row has its charms. It is a Grand Theft Auto clone. You can clearly tell that as soon as you start playing the game, and it seems like it takes a lot of its inspiration from GTA San Andreas and, all the other ones. See, in the mid to late 2000s, GTA clones were fairly common in video games, and this was one of the many that were released, and this was one of the few that found success. In this game, you play as a unnamed character who basically joins the Saints. And, it's if you've played Grand Theft Auto or anything like that and you haven't played Saints Row, it's pretty much, it's similar. You roam around, you complete missions. In this, you earn respect. And I forgot to mention the setting, it's Stillwater, which they later changed it in the third game. It's basically your typical open-world GTA clone. And this very first game, it kind of struggles to set itself apart from Grand Theft Auto. It seems like it's pretty much tethered to it. In fact, if you removed the name Saints Row and just gave it to somebody, them blindly not knowing what it is, they would easily mistake it for a Grand Theft Auto game. But not saying that as a bad thing, because this game actually is pretty fun. It's just interesting compared to, say, other kinds of games like this. Personally, it's not my favorite in the series, and I think a lot of people who will agree. I'm actually a huge Saints Row fan, but to be honest, I didn't get into the Saints Row series until Saints Row the Third came out in 2011. It's just, I never really had interest in the series. I was aware that it existed, but it was one of those series that I never really got interested in until the third game came out. And a lot of people will agree, Saints Row the Third is probably the best game in the Saints Row series. Of course, we'll be covering that game in a review at a later date. As for the graphics for this game, they're not too bad for the year that it came out, but you could definitely tell that it was not I guess you could say the graphics were not optimized to really look good on Xbox 360, especially during cutscenes. They seem real blocky, and you see that with a lot of games that were released for Xbox 360 around circa 2005, 2006, maybe into 2007, and that's because a lot of these games that were released for the Xbox 360 they were developed when a previous generation was out. So, Saints Row, you can assume, was made during the era that the original Xbox was prominent, and they may even have planned to release it during the lifetime of the original Xbox, but didn't get to. Instead, it was ported over to the 360. You get cases that are like that all the time. Otherwise, the graphics aren't too bad. They're not really an issue for me. I know for some people are, some people are really picky about that, but I don't really care. I'm just in it for the gameplay, which the gameplay, by the way, is pretty good. Just a few things about it. Kind of finicky, especially when you're driving. I don't particularly like using A for acceleration. I guess it's just, I'm spoiled, I guess you could say. A for acceleration, X for reverse. I guess I've forgotten that that's how games used to be. Some games. It's just I'm not used to it all of these years later, I guess. But the gameplay is really good. Yeah, it's just a generally pretty good game, especially if you take it at face value as a direct GTA clone, or in some cases, some people would go as far as to calling it a ripoff, but we're not going to call it a ripoff today. And the best part about this game, if you do decide to go online or pop into your local GameStop or your local gaming store and pick up a copy of it, it is backwards compatible with the Xbox One, which, yeah, go Team Xbox. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, I don't know what our rating scale is. I think it's just random, whatever I feel like. 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. Actually, let's change that. 1 to 5, that's just easier to remember. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Sorry about that little change, by the way. I'd have to give it a 3 out of 5. It's not perfect. You can tell that it is a straight-up GTA clone. The story is decent. Gameplay is decent. It's a pretty good game just to play around with and just, waste a couple hours playing. If you're in it for story, I would play GTA for the story. Well, let's admit it, nobody plays GTA for the story. But overall, this is a game I recommend picking up if you like GTA or even GTA clones or games similar to this. Or if you're just a fan of Saints Row and you've never played the first game, definitely give it a try. So, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell if you want notifications of when we make more awesome videos. And until next time, I will see ya.